generally, what we do in this work, we use supervised machine learning in order to implement traffic classifiers. And we do that with the standard scheme of using supervised machine learning. So basically, we have a pre-recorded data set of non-malicious and malicious data set that we run through a pre-processing entity to extract a number of instances for each of the for each protocol. Then we use these instances in order to train the classifiers and then test them with previously unseen instances. So something that you've probably already seen in supervised approaches. Generally, our approach is operating in a time window, which could be a drawback, but we can comment on that later. In any case, in each time window of a certain length, we take a snapshot of the traffic, extract the instances of TCP, UDP, and DNS, and then use them in order to either train classifier or test it in a test phase. We use random forest classifiers as capable assembly classifiers, and here you can find some of the setup we used. Generally, for the TCP and UDP traffic analysis, many authors use model both TCP and UDP with the same set of features. We decided to develop two classifiers because the two protocols are, in essence, different in nature. So we are looking at TCP and UDP traffic from the perspective of transfer layer conversations that cover both TCP and UDP, and we look at the two-way conversations. So basically, some people define it as a flow, but we call it conversation, that all the traffic between the two IP addresses on IP address A, IP address B, and port A, port B are consider a certain conversation, where A and B are conversation endpoints or IP addresses. And for each of the conversation, we take a number of features. So let's have a look at what do we really look at for TCP and UDP. So for TCP and UDP, we take a certain amount of features, I think around 30, but in paper you can find more precisely. And these features are grouped in 4 groups: basic conversational features, time-based features, bidirectional features, and TCP-specific features. As you can probably conclude from this naming of the features, the 4th group of the features is used for TCP traffic in addition to the first 3 ones, and for UDP we only use the first 3 groups of features. I won't go through all the features now, but certainly you can find a more detailed explanation in a paper. However, we try to define features so they would encompass the heuristics of botnet traffic in both command and control communication as well as attacks that are deployed by botnets. As you may notice, we try to use simplistic feature set, so we don't put too much load on the pre-processing entity of this classifier. We don't use any hosted identifiers as IP addresses as features, which could be seen as somewhat good from the privacy side, but also many authors use IP addresses as features, and then as you usually have a really small set of IP addresses that are malicious, then your classifier performs admirably because it's easy to just distinguish between a couple of malicious and non-malicious IP addresses. We can of course comment on that, but so we don't use them. And the interesting thing is that for UDP conversations, we decided to exclude DNS traffic conversations, or UDP conversations that are carrying DNS requests and response. Why is that? Because when you look at it, malicious DNS traffic and non-malicious DNS traffic are not that different from the perspective of UDP traffic. You would see a number of packets one way, a number of packets other way, so you don't see these distinguishable features. So if we include DNS traffic within the UDP conversation, we get a much worse results in classifying UDP. However, as we are also developing the DNS traffic analysis, then we are covering the DNS part as well. So how do we do that? We extract a number of features for that characterize queries and responses for a particular domain or fully qualified domain name. I won't bore you with all the features, but we group them in 4 groups, which is fully qualified domain name-based features that try to encompass how does the domain look like. So if you have pseudo-random domains or domains that you wouldn't expect to see within, in the normal internet. Then we have query-based features, response-based features, and geographical location features, where we also look at the IP addresses that are resolved for certain domains and try to infer some knowledge out of that. Generally, we evaluate our classifiers within a vast amount of data. Basically, from the left side, you can see there is more detailed view of our malicious data set we use, which is a data set formed by testing precisely 40 botnet samples within different malware testing environments. Some of them are in-house in our university, some of them are from some of our researchers that share their data. And we also use the extensive amount of data from non-malicious applications. So when we evaluated our classifiers using this, the off-the-shelf machine with just a regular machine that just to see how this approach is performed. So also we didn't really do any parallelization on our machine learning algorithms. So the results shown here in sense of time requirements could certainly be improved if we multi-thread and do parallelization. So for TCP traffic analysis, first figure shows the precision and recall for both malicious and non-malicious traffic. Malicious is with a full line, and non-malicious is with a dotted line. As you can see, we have evaluated results for different number of packets per conversation, starting from 10 up to 10,000. And we evaluated different sizes of this time window that we use for taking a snapshot of the traffic, starting from 5 minutes to up to 1 hour. So based on the results, you can see that there is influence of number of packets per conversation, and that's something that you could probably expect because it's a TCP traffic. However, from our findings, it would be optimal if one takes 1,000 packets per conversation. Some other authors were reporting less, and that's probably good, but not. We couldn't provide the best possible performances for less packets per conversation. Regarding size of this time window used for the analysis, as you can see, there is a slight influence, and but it's not that dramatic. So even for using a time window of 1 hour, although the reaction time of your system would be less, then you would even get a little bit better results. For the time requirements, on regular off-the-shelf machines, these approaches for on the range of 1 million instances used for training and maybe 100,000 used for testing, they are performing in under like 3 minutes. So I will just, I'm a little bit behind. So for the UDP traffic, we are getting even better results. And interesting thing is that here we don't see the influence of the number of packets per conversation. So basically, even for 10 packets per conversation, we are seeing quite good results. While for the time requirements, we are still seeing the same trends. So basically, it's something that under a minute you can classify, around 300,000 samples. At the end, for DNS, we evaluated the performances of DNS, but we didn't really limit the number of queries and responses we were looking within the certain time window, because we wanted to take all of the responses and all of the queries and to analyze them. Generally, what we were getting is that there are quite stable performances, although slightly decreasing as we increase the size of the time window. Regarding the time requirements, so on these off-the-shelf machines, they are in line with something we saw in the previous two traffic classifiers. I will just briefly outline what we want to do with this and what are the next steps in our eyes. Basically, our idea was in order to develop a system that would be able to use all the, basically the findings of the three classifiers and somewhat post-process them in order to pinpoint what hosts are infected or not. Basically, the open issue that we still have and that we are fighting with is the number of false positives, because although we have quite a good results in sense of classifying traffic, even 1% of error in classification can result in a number of false positives where you are, where you are, deploying this at a real-life network where you have millions of instances and millions of conversations. So that's something that we will certainly consider in the future work. And I will just conclude with some of the conclusions based on our work is that you can achieve high accuracy of traffic classification for all three methods. And it could be a time-efficient approach. Generally, the future work would be devoted to developing a method for correlating these findings in order to pinpoint what hosts are infected and not. So on this I would conclude, and I will thank you for your attention.